Hey, everybody, and welcome once again to Nose in the Book, Bible reading commentary with me, your host, Pastor Justin Van Reed. So great to be with you for the next few minutes as we take a look at six more chapters from God's Word. We have 2 Kings chapter 14, 2 Timothy chapter 4, Hosea chapter 7, and then Psalm 120, 121, and 122. If you have any questions or comments about these readings, please feel free to post those in the comments section below. Otherwise, here's what we've got. First off, 2 Kings chapter 14. We begin in the southern kingdom of Judah with the reign of Amaziah, son of Joash, who reigns over Judah here for 29 years. And he does what is pleasing in the Lord's sight, a good king, but he's compared with David, and he says not like David. He does some good here in that he destroys the pagan shrines, and but the people still are not led into following the Lord fully. Now, one of the things that he does here that's very problematic is he challenges Jehoash, the king of the northern kingdom, Israel. It says, one day Amaziah sent messengers with this challenge to Israel's king Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz and grandson of Jehu, come and meet me in battle. But King Jehoash replies with a story. He says, out in the Lebanon mountains, a thistle sent a message to a mighty cedar tree, give your daughter in marriage to my son. But just then a wild animal of Lebanon came by and stepped on the thistle, crushing it. What's he mean? He means you've defeated Edom and you're proud of it, but be content with your victory and stay at home. You're stirring up trouble that's only going to bring disaster on you and the people of Judah. But Amaziah refuses to listen. And so Jehoash and of Israel gets the army together to face up against Amaziah, and Judah and Amaziah lose the battle and are scattered. And Jehoash captures Amaziah and marches to Jerusalem, demolishes 600 feet of Jerusalem's wall, and carries off the gold and silver and articles of the temple. So just a major blow, major loss here brought about by Amaziah from challenging Jehoash. Meanwhile, the Jeroboam II, after Jehoash rules in Israel, the northern kingdom here, and when you have a namesake like that, it means that you're going to be like the Jeroboam before him, and that's what he's being named after. And sure enough, he did what was evil in the Lord's sight and refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. However, there is some good brought about by the Lord, even though he's a wicked king. We read that Israel recovers various territories during his reign. And why? Well, it tells us in verse 26, the Lord saw the bitter suffering of everyone in Israel, and there was no one in Israel, slave or free, to help them. And because the Lord had not said he would blot out the name of Israel completely, he used Jeroboam II to save them. So God does good in the days of Jeroboam II to Israel. So that's 2 Kings chapter 14. All right, we come to 2 Timothy chapter 4 next. And this final chapter of of Paul's second letter to Timothy here, warning him to preach the word. He starts off here, preach the word in season and out of season, always being ready, as he describes here, whether the time is favorable or not. Patiently correct, rebuke, encourage your people with good teaching. Why is it so important? Well, he describes a time, he says, where people aren't going to want to listen to truth, but they're going to want to basically hear whatever it is that they want to hear. They're going to want to hear all kinds of other things and falsehoods, and basically just have teachers that will tell them anything, that will tell them what they want. And so they'll reject the truth and chase after myths. He says, but you should instead keep a clear mind, even if it means suffering. Paul uses himself as an example here of how he suffered. He's being poured out here. He's come to the end of his life. And, this is a great statement here, very famous from the Apostle Paul, right? Describing the fact that he's at the end of his life. This is the last chapter that Paul, writes as far as his life goes. We still have more letters from Paul to come here, but time-wise, this would be some of the last things that Paul would have said. And he's writing to Timothy here saying, the days come. I'm being poured out as an offering to God. Time of my death is near. I fought the good fight, and look at how he's endured to the end. I finished the race. I remained faithful, And now the prize awaits me, the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on the day of his return, and not just to me, but to all who look forward to his appearing. And then Paul spends the last few verses of this just giving some instructions on various people that have been helpful to him in ministry. He says, Timothy, come to me. He says, Demas has deserted me. Crescens has left. Titus has left. Only Luke is with me. Significantly, bring Mark with you. Right, with previously they had a split, but now he says, bring Mark with you. He's useful to me for ministry. Talks about Tychicus here and some of the others, including Alexander the coppersmith that harmed Paul. So given some final instructions. It almost sounds like David when he's handing over the kingdom to Solomon here, giving some final instructions to Timothy, his protege. So that's the end of the letter of 2 Timothy. All right, then we come to Hosea chapter 7. And here we have a chapter in Hosea on more descriptions of Israel's sin. And here's how he describes it. He says, I want to heal Israel, God speaking, but its sins are too great. He says, the people entertain the king with their wickedness. The princes laugh at their lies. Their adulterers aflame with lust, like an oven that is kept hot while the baker is kneading the dough. He says they get drunk with wine, they're carousing, their hearts are blazing with intrigue. The people of Israel, he says, mingle with godless foreigners. They worship foreign gods. He says the people of Israel have become like silly, witless doves. They call on Egypt to help, then go to Assyria for help. As they fly about, he says, I will throw my net over them and bring them down. Because of their sin, judgment is coming. He says, what sorrow awaits those who have deserted me. Let them die, for they have rebelled against me. I wanted to redeem them, but they have told lies about me. They do not cry out to me with sincere hearts. Instead, they sit on their couches and wail. So this language here is concerning Israel here at the time of Hosea, that they don't listen to the Lord. They don't want the Lord, even though he's been, right? There's been the message of Hosea. He's been so good to them, loved them. Even though they've been unfaithful, he continues to have this long-suffering patience with them, and yet how much they just love sin. They just want to sin and love sin. So there's a great parallel here between 2 Timothy 4 and even Hosea 7. Different time periods, but you see the heart that doesn't change of man, which goes after stuff, pleasure, that lives for this world and its things, and doesn't listen to the Lord who says, here's what's good for you, here's what's best for you. So that's Hosea 7. All right, we come to these three chapters then in Psalms with our last couple minutes. Psalm 120, 121, 122. These are short Psalms. They're in this section of the book of Psalms where you have these what are called these songs of ascent, where these would be like for worshipers going up to Jerusalem. And here you have I took my troubles to the Lord. I cried out to him. He answered my prayers. This is Psalm 120, right? I took my troubles to the Lord. I cried out to him. Rescue me, O Lord, from liars and from all deceitful people. How about Psalm 121? Again, another song for the pilgrims ascending to Jerusalem, a song of ascent. This is a great one. I look up to the heavens. Now, does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And he says he won't let you stumble. He'll watch over you. He watches over Israel. He never slumbers or sleeps. God is always alert, always awake. There's not like, quiet period where God's not paying attention, where he's busy, where he's sleeping. It says, the Lord himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon at night. The Lord keeps you from all harm and watches over your life. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and go, both now and forever. A wonderful statement about the work of God, his love for us. All right, last then we come to Psalm 122. And, again, this psalm of going to Jerusalem for worship. This is an entering worship psalm. Right? He says, I was glad when they said to me, let's go to the house of the Lord. Now, here we are inside your gates, O Jerusalem. Right? And praising Jerusalem here is a well-built city. All the tribes of Israel make their pilgrimage here. They come to give thanks to the name of the Lord as the law requires of Israel. Here stands the thrones where judgment is given, the thrones of David. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May all who love this city prosper. O Jerusalem, may there be peace within your walls and prosperity in your palaces. For the sake of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek what is best for you, O Jerusalem. All right, that's all we have time for today. Again, we had 2 Kings chapter 14, 2 Timothy chapter 4, Hosea chapter 7, and Psalm 120, 121, and 122. Hope you enjoy your time in the Lord's Word today. Until next time, keep your eyes on the Lord and your nose in the book.